All right, ladies and gentlemen, I had major computer problems. So I understand many of you, when you get into these instances, not being able to log on to the computer or whatever, I'm sure it's stressful. So thank you for your patience. I need to start off class with something a little bit different. Obviously, I don't have as many people as I think I would normally, but um, under the participants, if you guys click on participants, you should see a yes, green check mark, or a no red X. If next week, Thursday or Friday, you want to come pick up a hard copy of the textbook, I have to take a vote on here. I mean, I'm hoping all of you will say yes, but that's on you because you have to pick it up. And so on the participant spot where it says green yes or X no, I need you to vote. I need everybody to vote on whether or not they want a textbook. Okay, so I'm going to have to get everybody, again, who's in here to vote. It's whether or not you want a hard textbook to take home, you have to come get it, and your other classes will offer them also, or if you are fine doing it on the computer. Okay, right now I appear to only have 18 votes, and I need to have about 24 votes, or 25 votes, please. Again, put it on the participants page where it's check yes or X no.
What if you already have one?
Well, if you bought it on your own, that's good. If you got it on another factor, then I guess then no. But if you bought it on your own, you can sell the one you bought and get the one from school, I guess. Tony, we are checking if we want to have a textbook on the participants page. Check is yes, X is no. I need you to vote. I need you to vote with your check yes or check no on the participants function. There we go. We're up to 22. We just have a couple people that need to vote. So Elias. All right, that's helpful. Thank you. All right, gonna go ahead and clear that and try to continue, at least get something out of this class period, even though I've got 30 minutes maybe, and see if my computer will work. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to share the screen without it freezing up on me like it did the entire last period. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to explain what I wanted to do today so that everybody can hear it and make sure that you're there. Okay, so I want to finish going over this PowerPoint. I'm not sure if in the slides, I'm not sure if it'll let me. Okay. Today you were supposed to have by the end of the class period turned in your change in continuity over time, which was analyzing change in Africa. And I looked at, I think I had 39 people this morning, but hopefully that's done. Okay. Themes day, I don't think we'll end up getting to this. We didn't last period. It's not worth stressing out about. We'll try it later. And then the Marco Polo primary source. This is going to be a homework assignment tonight, as well as prepping for the discussion tomorrow, which is if you're in the outer circle, making your 5 questions. If you're in the inner circle, making sure you're comfortable with the content. Okay. All right. Next thing then, I'm going to see if I can download this because I know my computer won't let me download it. I already tried. Let's see what happens here. All right, that seems to not want to be working. Let me try one other thing. Again, I appreciate your patience. We'll get these glitches figured out tomorrow. All right, I'm gonna try to use this. I hope you guys can see it. And if I open it up with Google Slides, it'll work. Beautiful. All right. Nothing like going to plan D for the day. All right, guys. So need to get a chance to take a few moments to get over this. So if you guys remember yesterday, we talked basically up until the death of Genghis Khan, all right, in 1227. At his death, I just wanted to show you guys again, if you remember right here, this was the expansion of how far he was able to conquer, really only in about 20 years. Okay. Now, areas that are going to be added, you'll see are quite significant after he died. Okay. But similar to the death of Muhammad, there wasn't a vertical path to choosing the next leader. And so what happens was when he dies, there's a lot of fighting between his relatives, and there were a lot of women because women yielded quite a bit of power in Mongol society and took care of the herds when the men were out fighting. I have no idea what just happened. Oh, okay. And so they end up splitting up the Mongol Empire into 4 khanates. Each 4 end up becoming very famous for certain reasons. Okay, just one that was well known are the Tartars, which were what the Russians called the people from Mongolia because the Russians have tried to erase their existence in history. We'll talk about it later. But here's how it is split up. Okay, you can see the massive part in the pink on the right is Kublai Khan's territory. You'll see in the middle here what's kind of Central Asia or modern day Iran, the Chagatai Khanate, the Ilkhanate, which was essentially kind of Persia, but really the Middle East. And then you're going to see the Golden Horde, also known as the Tartars, if you ask the Russians. and how they expand into Europe. Okay. Like I said, all four will be very important for about 100 years during the 13th century, which is called the Pax Mongolica, and the peace of the Mongols. It was peaceful as long as you didn't fight against them. Okay, so we'll first look at the Golden Horde. The Mongols attacked Russia in the winter, which is the exact opposite of what Napoleon Bonaparte and another dictator by the name of Adolf Hitler would do. And it worked because the Mongol horses were able to actually use the ice and the cold weather to defeat the Russian towns. And every Russian town was destroyed, except for Novgorod, which surrendered. But then they rebuilt Muscovy, which is Moscow today, which you probably heard of. And there they collected taxes for 250 years. Irony behind this is Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union tried to erase this period of history and say that it never happened. They went from Kievan Rus to Muscovy, Russia, to the rule of czars, but it did not. Okay? Now, this kind of fear and destruction the Mongols caused created feudalism, where Russian nobles paid the Mongols in taxes they collected from the peasants. And so the lords and the nobles started to make more and more money. And by the year 1380, they start organized resistance. Okay. Now, that means that by the end of 1380, at what's known as the Battle of Kulakova, Russian princes that were aligned around Moscow were able to defeat the Golden Horde, and this is going to free Russia and then lead Russia to the path of the Tsar and the Romanovs, et cetera, and turn Russia into a powerhouse eventually. Okay. And again, they try to erase that part of their history. Now, defeat of Russia was kind of a wake-up call for the Christians that were bogged down in Central and Western Europe. They thought that the Mongols could have been this man by the name of Prester John. Prester John was a mythological character who was created by chroniclers in the Middle Ages in Europe. They thought it was a prince or king that had escaped Mongol rule and was basically separated from Christians and from Western Europe by the Muslims. Okay, and so they thought maybe the Mongols were Prester John, but in reality, they were the Mongols, and they realized that when they attacked Russia and then took over the Kingdom of Poland and the Kingdom of Hungary, two great civilizations and kind of autonomous states in Eastern Europe during the 1200s. They are destroyed. They did not basically think the Mongols were anything, and so the Mongols could for certain, it's a game changer. Talk about game changers in this class, like the fall of Constantinople. This is a game changer in world history. Why? If the Mongols advance into Western Europe and take over Rome, Constantinople, Paris, life would be different. Let's just say that. But they don't. They stop. Okay? So the death of Ogadai, one of the four Khans, forced the Mongols to go back to Mongolia in the same tradition of trying to figure out who was supposed to be the Kagan. So they do not invade Europe, even though they certainly could have. Okay? Now, Hulagu, who is the leader of the Ilkhanate, is going to end up invading the Middle East and asking Baghdad to surrender, but the Abbasid Caliphate was one of the most prosperous and really wealthy cities in the world, certainly at that time, and they say no. And so the caliph and his family, 800,000 to 1,000,000 people are killed. Muslims flee into Egypt and flee closer to the Byzantine Empire, causing problems for Egypt and the Byzantine Empire from the Mongols. And the Mongols then are going to basically now control the Abbasid Caliphate, which was huge, and their artisans, they're going to move them to China. They're going to move the Russians to China, and they end up creating this massive trade empire that's extremely important in terms of world history and the exchange of goods. But a lot of death. Okay, the Mongols are finally defeated by a group of people known as the Mamluk slaves. It's going to come back in this course because the Mamluk slaves were not really slaves. What they were paid soldiers who they called quote unquote slaves, but they were the elite fighting force in the for the Abbasid Caliphate, and they will end up being the elite fighting force for Egypt for a long time. And so the Mongols, the history doesn't tell the whole truth. They say they turned around. The Mamluk slaves and other Christian knights say they caused them to turn around. All we know is this left North Africa and Timbuktu and Ghana, Mali, and Songhai to develop, and East Africa to develop without the pressure of the Mongols. All right. Now, we're going to turn our sights over to China now. So way far to the east. And when we do that, we come across Kublai Khan, who took over what would be China. And he would rule China during the period of Chinese dynastic history known as the Yuan dynasty. Okay, and he was able to complete what his grandfather Genghis Khan had not been able to complete. Now, you notice those nice rosy cheeks, a nice outfit here for Kublai Khan. He lived a much more luxurious lifestyle than Genghis Khan. Okay, became much more fancied with the arts and the drink, the alcohol. Now, the Yuan gave themselves the Chinese dynastic name. They moved the capital from Chang'an and Hangzhou to modern-day Dadu, which is where the Forbidden Palace is going to be created by the Ming. And Kublai Khan, although he didn't elevate the scholarly gentry class, he put them below other people. He still used them and kept them around. And then what he did was he made sure he forbid the Mongols with mixing from the Chinese. And so Chinese scholars were not allowed to learn the Mongol language, even though it was much further advanced. There was no intermarrying, no Chinese women in harems. Their military was never actually combined, and the civil service exams were not issued. Okay, this is only one of 2 times that the Chinese are taken over by foreigners. Chinese are very xenophobic. Okay, this being the first one, the second one being the Qing dynasty and the Manchus from Manchuria. Now, I told you maybe earlier, I alluded to it. Women had a particularly high status in Chinese culture. And so, not in Chinese culture, in Mongolian culture, and not in Chinese culture. And so, Mongol women did not have to bind their feet. They could own businesses and properties. They often accompanied men on fights and hunts. And this is kind of symbolic. In the last remaining years of Kublai Khan's life, his wife was probably more influential than he was, and his wife was Chabi Khan. And she basically ruled while he became addicted to palace luxuries and, like I said, drinking too much. And so she basically, I said you could compare her to Emperor Theodorus, honestly, of the Byzantine Empire. Now, some people will call this, you're going to read it tonight, the golden age of China, because this is when the Chinese bring in artisans, and you see some inventions that are kind of added to make Chinese products even more popular. The Mongols spread Chinese weaponry, cannons, and gunpowder all the way across to Europe. The Mongols spread a new type of porcelain that came from the Chagatai Khanate. Okay, one that could have if you guys have ever seen porcelain, sometimes you see blue on it. Okay, that came from Persia, that dye, Iran, and then you mix it with the Chinese porcelain that they were already known for, and you got a new kind of porcelain that was very popular. One of the most important and kind of symbols of the Mongol wealth after they were done advancing was they took these brocades, which was weavers from the Middle East, from Baghdad, took gold from Tibet and then silk from China, and they put it together to make this really fancy cloth that they put on their horses, on their yurts, and they wore all over their outfits to show off their wealth. Muslims, many Muslims that were powerful and were seen as political leaders were taken out of the Middle East and sent to the court to live with Kublai Khan and his advisors. Christians, Marco Polo would be another example, Buddhists, and you had the rise of various other different civilizations and groups of people in China for the first time, and it wasn't just a Neo-Confucian society. Okay, one of the better examples of that was Marco Polo, who Europeans thought he was from the Polo family. It's one of the most families in history, and they thought he got lost in Europe, but he ended up making his way back. He ended up being imprisoned because he didn't bring anything back of value, and when he was in prison, he orally told his account, and it was written down and produced in one of the more popular books in history called The Adventures of Marco Polo. Now, what was in his writing? You're going to read about some of it tonight. You're going to read some of his writings tonight, but what made them very popular was talking about the extravagance and the wealth and the technology that the Chinese had over the rest of the world this time. And the Mongols, because they were open to outsiders, allowed Marco Polo to advise and become an advisor in the court. And he wasn't tortured. In fact, he learned quite a bit. All right, some new roles. So the scholarly gentry class was no longer in the top position. You had artisans and merchants that were basically in Confucianism, artisans and merchants and making money wasn't particularly that valuable. But now underneath the Yuan, for this short period of time, they were moved up. Scholarly gentry class was not afforded the same rights that they had in the Song and Tang dynasties. And you see the expansion of commerce. You guys maybe have read about the passport system the Mongols used, but every so often there would be a garrison or a group of soldiers and horses where Mongols could and traders could stop, guaranteed them safety on the silk trade route. And as long as they carried this gold coin, which essentially, like I said, was the first passport system, they could travel safely from China all the way to the Middle East and into Europe without being in danger, okay, which was very different than the Canvassarai and the trading that occurred prior to the Mongols. All right. Why do they fall? Well, I told you Kublai Khan became very much more addicted with the court pleasures than actually ruling. The majority of the population of China lived in the south, and it was there that a peasant by the name of Zhu Wangzhong, using gunpowder and more advanced weaponry, was able to finally defeat the Mongols who were in the walled cities. It was kind of the reverse of how the Mongols had originally expanded. They also tried twice to invade Japan, and twice what's known as the kami winds, or the divine spirits. The divine winds blew the Mongols off course, which was actually a tsunami, but the Japanese rallied around, saying that it was, again, these divine spirits. You may have heard of a kamikaze plane before. That's a spiritual suicide. Well, the kami winds blew them off course, and they were not able to invade Japan successfully. So that would lead to the Mongols returning back to China and the Ming setting up a new dynasty, which we'll talk about later on. All right, so a lot of consequences on this or for this, and really it took place because of the Mongols. And I think I'm going to let you guys kind of debate on that tomorrow, since I'm not necessarily, I hope you picked them up from me talking, because the exchange, like I said, of products that went from China to Europe would change the world, and the technology. All right, I'm going to see if I can get out of this and get to your guys' assignment for tonight. Maybe there's a possibility. Okay. So here's how we're going to play this, since I missed a bunch of class and period 7-8 was a disaster of an end. Okay. So under modules, chapters 13, 15, 17, and 19. I had asked you to do the CCOT for class today, which was making comparisons, continuities and changes in Africa in the Middle Ages. The themes day, you were still assigned a theme. Hopefully you remember which one that is. Okay. It'll probably take me 8 minutes to get Excel to actually pull up the document. Keep that theme. Hopefully you already took your notes on it. We'll figure out how to get that done either at the end of class tomorrow or over the weekend. The Marco Polo primary source, though, I definitely want you to read this tonight. You're going to answer the following question. It says, the source is on there, but it says read the excerpt, and then it's due before class starts tomorrow, 9/11. Okay, is it fair to call the Yuan dynasty the golden age of Chinese history? Why or why not? Support your answer with at least 3 pieces of evidence, either from the reading or from something we've done in class. Secondly, then, how is Marco Polo biased? Do you think we should believe his accounts or not? Why? Okay, so looking for you guys to read that. Let's see how long it will take me to pull it up. Well, didn't need to download it twice, but this is what it looks like. You read the introduction, and then you can see the excerpts are fairly short. It's 2 pages of reading at most, okay? Sam, you're lifting weights on camera. You okay? It's interesting. Okay. All right. The other thing then, tomorrow for the discussion, switch from last week. If you were in the outer circle last week and you had the questions, you're in the inner circle this week. If you were in the inner circle last week, you were in the outer circle this week. Okay, I can try to pull it up, but okay, so you're responsible again also for the questions for the primary source reading, and then if we have a chance to get to themes, we can do that and skip the awesome video that I was going to show you. Okay. All right, doesn't appear that this is going to pull up, so I'm going to go ahead and let you leave. If you have any questions, please stay on and ask. I'm so sorry about the technological difficulties that we didn't get to themes today. I hope you guys are learning, though. This stuff's fascinating to me, but I'm also a history teacher, so what do you know?
Are we just doing inner and outer circles tomorrow?
Not just. I would say we're also analyzing the primary source, which you're going to do tonight, and then we're going to look at it together as a group. And then we're also going to do themes if we have time.
So don't like make questions.
Yes, definitely make the questions. If you're in the outer circle, you certainly want to make the questions for tomorrow.
Okay. And so our homework is to do whatever our job is according to our circle. And
Yeah, look, I'm able to pull it up. Here we go. Okay. So even numbers, make sure that those numbers over here. Even numbers are inside. Odd numbers are outside. You should have already had your themes prepped for today, but don't do any more on that. Okay. Make sure you read the primary source, answer the questions, and then have your questions ready if you are on the outer circle. Okay. I think this should be a pretty lively one. The Mongols are very fun to discuss and their influence. And then we also have the spread of Islam and spread into Africa, which some people said they were pretty interested in. So I think we've got a good amount to chat about. And then themes, if we get there, we get there. If we don't, I'm not going to stress about it. Okay?
all right, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question? Feel free, please ask if you are confused. All right, well, you guys are, feel free to leave. I think there's a minute left in class. Jack.